and things like that across the app. The entire like stable swap and ShadeSwap interface is also way more intuitive for the end user, really making this super easy. Dalton, you telling me to
I think
hold up?
now we're
Or
live. I think
I
now
don't
we're
think the live
officially
one.
live. There was a
Now we
nice, beautiful little delay. And totally, are we officially live now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then we'll run it back, and as we like to say, practice makes perfect. So before now, we can give this another go around. So first off, thank you to the community for waiting for that. Sorry for being 2 minutes late there. Today is a monumental moment. We stand on the cusp of the most important month in Shade Protocol history, which is April of 2023. Back, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, this vision for holistic, privacy-preserving DeFi was born. And it gave birth to this idea of privacy-preserving stable coins, decentralized exchanges, lending, staking, bridging, all these different pieces of the puzzle to have this simple user experience that is all about empowering accessibility, all about empowering self-custody, permissionless access, censorship resistance, and stability amidst a world of insanely chaotic, Web3. There's so many things that have happened in the last year. I don't think any of us predicted when we set out to build Silk or Shade Protocol. I don't think any of us predicted Terra. I don't think any of us predicted FTX or USDC depegging. It has been a year of entropy, but despite all of that, this team has continued to build and build and build, and the community, in fairness, has waited and waited and waited, and now, on this call, we get to reveal the launch date for ShadeSwap. We'll talk about the launch of Lend and Silk. We're going to talk about staking as well as derivative staking tied to Shade. We're going to be talking about the SNP migration, and we're going to be talking about the final airdrop. So this is the most excited I have ever been for any of these dev calls, because historically we talked about what is coming, and this call is about what is. This is real. This is happening. And so without further ado, I'm going to hand off this to Mike and Christian to talk about what has happened since January on the smart contract side, on the front end side. What has the wait all been about, and where do we stand today for Lend, Silk, and Swap?
For sure, I'll take it over from here. Yeah, so it's been a bit since we've hopped on here, but yeah, the last time, probably the last real announcement that we've had was that we were pushing our launch date. That was something that I don't think any of us wanted to actually do, but unfortunately, we had to. The good news is that we did it for a reason, right? And that's to keep everything that we're doing completely secure and safe, right? We're making sure that the end users are always the number one priority, and safety and security is always up there. So, having to do that over the past, since then, there was a lot of other just adjustments that we have done. So clearly, one, we've made sure that any of these security, holes or anything like that were patched completely. Everything is looking good. We got the green light. Our internal audit team has gone through numerous times. I'm sure they're they're disgusted at looking at this code at this point. But at this point, we actually really had a great iteration of the front end. The actual user interface of our website, specifically on ShadeSwap, but also on the entire website itself. So we've added some, small things that really make a large difference for the end user, like toast notifications. We've really honed in on the actual ShadeSwap UI itself as well, making it very, very intuitive for when you're providing liquidity, whether that's to a stable swap or otherwise, whether you're swapping, as well as a dashboard for ShadeSwap. And yeah, really right now, we're just super excited to finally get this out there. In parallel to all of this, we've had developers, day and night hard at work, building, iterations of ShadeSwap, but as well as all these other applications. So I think, Christian, maybe you can lean in there to take that over. But yeah, overall, super, super excited.
Yeah. So there's
if you include all the infrastructure projects that are necessary to actually make this stuff work, the list of things that we've been doing is it's so long I'm not even going to bother reciting it. But on the product front, obviously Swap and Lend and Silk, and we've got staking and staking derivatives coming up for Shade. But I mean, we've got the oracles, we've got the ability to actually deploy all of these contracts and not lose lose track of the 100 contracts that are out there. I mean, think about what happens if you ever change the silk peg, right? That's actually a really technically complex problem. We have to spend a couple of weeks building that and a couple of weeks testing it, make sure that it works, because once silk's out there, it's out there forever. So I feel totally confident. I have never felt more confident in the system. And with Lend, the main progress that we've made has been number one, making the off-chain infrastructure more flexible. Things like liquidations are meant to be decentralized. They're not meant to be owned by the protocol. And there is a public interface for liquidations, and we have to make sure that it's easy for people to participate in those liquidations by building the correct open source tooling so that you can just come to the GitHub and deploy it. We've done that. On the Lend side, we totally redid the UI. And like I said, the countless infrastructure projects, we've built them and we have hammered them over and over through audits, through manual testing, through automated testing. We are rock solid. And do you want to give a date? Are we giving dates here?
Yeah, let's do it. What's the date, Christian? You tell us.
April 12th is the date for Swap, and April 18th, that's Tuesday, right? Yeah, April 18th is the date for Lend and Silk. And we're committing to that. We've got everything lined up. Now it's just a question of hitting the mainnet button and bridging your money over and LPing.
Another piece too is the SNP migration. So another piece of entropy that was added in was there was kind of a disclosure tied to the security of balances on kind of Secret Network with the existing SNP 20 standard. And so working with Secret Labs, they've done some phenomenal work to get us to the SNP 25 standard for all the key secret tokens on Secret Network. And so the front-end developers have developed a fully functioning live on testnet migration interface to be able to migrate your SNP tokens to the hardened and more secure standard. And that will be ready 1 day before ShadeSwap. So Monday, not of this next week, but 2 weeks from now, right before the day before, you'll be able to migrate over all of your SNP tokens. What's really important, and this is, we're really obsessed with this, is that when a new user comes to Secret Network from the broader Cosmos and they use our bridge interface, they're going to be seamlessly onboarded into SNP 25s. So that was like our number one priority, is we didn't want to launch with the old SNP standard and have a split of pools between SNP 20s versus SNP 25s. And so now this user experience for liquidity providers is going to be drastically simplified, and that experience should be essentially one click to migrate from the old to the new. There will be quite a few clicks to create the new viewing keys for SNP 25s, which is probably the highest friction point, but you can do that all in one go, and from there you'll be set on the new standard. So really looking forward to getting that migration experience out to the entire Secret Network community. And we really value privacy and security, and I'm sure there'll be a SNP 26 one day and a SNP 27, and now we're really well positioned to be able to handle future migrations as well, which is a plus. And yeah, really big shout out to Secret Labs for moving quick on the SNPs, and yeah, that's going to be a huge deal to get those out to the community. So that being said, let's do a little bit of a brief retrospective. I'll hand this off to Redeye and Mohammed. Let's start with Mohammed. Walk us through, on the infrastructure side, what did we learn from the stress tests? And once we talk about that, then we'll hand off to Redeye to talk about the success of the 3 incentivized testnets.
Yeah, so we started, since January, we really wanted to launch ShadeSwap. We came to a conclusion that we wanted to do further testing. And one of the things was we wanted to do testing on Pulsar 2, which is Secret Network's testnet. And we decided to launch our contracts there. We decided to do front end testing and unit testing on that front as well. So that was the process really, but like we decided how do we further stress the system, stress ShadeSwap, stress our contracts, stress the infrastructure that is backing it. So we basically did some similar configurations to mainnet as close to Pulsar would allow us in terms of infrastructure, and we got like a working group of people, and we basically stress tested across the course of the timeline of the last 2 months. Post all our stress tests, which I'll let Red talk a little bit about that in a bit, but what we really decided is that we are close to launching at this point because our testing is our passing. Our stress test feedback has been monumental. We know what infrastructure we need to launch with, and this is what we're really going to go with. So yeah, I'll let Red talk a little bit about the stress test itself and what it entitled, what were the things, who were the people participating. The group of Shade Spartans has been very thankful. We are very helpful at that front. Thank you for participating if you have participated. So yeah, I'll hand it over to Red. Red, go ahead.
Thank you. It's nice to be on the other side of this call. The incentivized testnets rounds 1 through 3 spanned approximately a month and a half, and during that time, we received close to 8,000 different submissions relating to UI UX improvements, bugs in smart contracts, or just suggestions for how we could potentially improve our applications in general. We saw over 2,000 unique individuals participate in the incentivized testnet, which is great. And kind of related to that, we saw our Discord community and other communities grow by upwards of 50% during that month and a half. And so that was really good validation for the Shade Protocol team that people are hungry to interact with our applications. And this has been a great opportunity for us to continue building and facilitating that relationship with our community that's supporting us through this. Like Mohammed had mentioned, we decided to run a few different stress tests to actually stress the infrastructure that's supporting the application. And we saw tremendous success with that. The first stress test, we actually broke the website, which was it's kind of interesting to see that happen. But we were able to make the tweaks necessary to be able to handle the abnormally high traffic load in anticipation of a large amount of users coming in to interact with Swap and Lend whenever they're out. And during our subsequent stress tests, our off-chain infrastructure was able to handle everything that we were throwing at it pretty well. And so from our side, the stress tests were successful. We were able to see what was needed to be able to tweak to make sure that as many users that want to come and use Shade Protocol's apps can whenever it launches live. So from a community standpoint and also from a protocol standpoint, the incentivized testnet was a big success. And from myself and everyone else on the team, I just want to say how appreciative we are of everyone that put in their time and effort providing feedback during the incentivized testnet. Obviously, we had a lot of people participate, and we can't necessarily react to every single person's submission, but I just want you to know from my perspective as someone who is kind of handling this boots on the ground, it was extremely appreciated for all the effort you guys put in, and we're better poised to launch now than we ever were.
A special shout out, of course, also to Red Eye for handling an insane amount of feedback, and also to the community mods as well. I know there was some community mods that stepped up in a really big way. I think a really cool part about stress testing is it also shows how we've grown as a protocol and as a set of contributors. If you recall back to February 21st of 2022, the Shade Protocol airdrop essentially crashed our website, and it also crashed Secret Network 2 at the time. And so since then to now, essentially a little over a year later, to now be in the place where we have multiple incentivized test nets, multiple stress tests on infrastructure. It's a slower process, but I think it shows that there's been a lot of maturation on the contributor side, and I think in the end it's going to result in a very fluid first-time experience from the community. So super, super pumped. Thank you, Red Eye, for all the help on that front. And I want to hand this over to Fisco. Fisco, and I would also kind of include Dalton in this category too, have done a lot of groundwork for business development. A decentralized exchange is really only as interesting as the options and utility available. And so these guys have been doing, conference to conference to conference, setting up relationships to allow for other protocols to come to the ShadeSwap experience, to spread the vision of Silk far and wide. So I'll let Fisco kind of talk about what that BD process has looked like, maybe allude to, how much success we're seeing and traction on the business development front.
Yeah, 100%. So over the last couple months, we've been really focusing on building relationships within the Cosmos ecosystem around derivatives and stablecoins, since that's really the bread and butter of our exchange here. And we'll leave some of the announcement for the next couple weeks as we're waiting for swap for the partners specifically. But we've got over $100,000 of incentives ready on the stablecoin and derivatives pools ready to be going out here as swap comes. So we're really excited to be really involved with the rest of the Cosmos ecosystem as we are looking at the swap launch and have a lot of key contributors jumping on and participating with us.
Amazing. And Dalton, maybe if you want to add any comments too.
Yeah, I mean, I won't add too much to what Fisco said. Like he said, the announcements of the actual partners will be coming soon. But I'm extremely excited. Like you said, Carter, a decentralized exchange really is only as valuable as the offers that it really gives. So I think for us specifically, that was really important. And like Carter said, Logan and I have busted our tails off, mainly Logan, to make sure that the offering for users, specifically when it comes to assets that are on the exchange, are lucrative and are willing, like create some sort of incentive for users to come to our DEX over others. So like I said, I'll wait for the actual announcements to come out. But I am super excited, and as a user myself, the partners get me really excited.
Awesome. Thanks for the update on that. I cannot wait to roll those out publicly. It's a lot of people can launch a cookie cutter DEX, but it's very difficult to not only have a differentiated DEX because of the privacy, the capital efficiency, the user experience, but to also pull other people into that vision. I think that really differentiates Shade Protocol, that we see Shade Protocol as part of the larger Cosmos, and we can't wait to onboard people into this privacy experience. So pivoting next to kind of the two big final topics, which is staking and the final airdrop. So staking is in an excellent spot. We've also been working with an additional team to build out something that's going to be called D-Shade. So essentially, there's going to be the traditional staking experience where you'll be able to lock up Shade. To date, we've been using Shade bonds as a very unique staking experience, but in order for us to scale staking to governance, as well as in order to truly empower the community to govern the variety of fees and the DAO itself, the treasury, we really need to kind of have this next generation of staking really step up. So staking is in an excellent position. The UI UX is coming along for it pretty rapidly, and you can look forward to D-Shade as kind of this key staking derivative. Derivatives are a big part of our story. It's more capital efficient to use them. It frees up a lot of the value that's locked in staking protocols. And so we believe in the Cosmos vision for staking derivatives, and so it also makes sense for Shade Protocol to also have a derivative tied to the Shade token. So you can look forward to that coming, I'll say, not long or shortly after Silk and Lend. I wouldn't expect it at the end of April, but I would expect it shortly after that, quite shortly after that. So we're pumped to get that out. That's really when community members that have been here since day one can really start to benefit in terms of their long-term alignment with the protocol. So really excited to get that out to the community, and we'll have more details. Probably an additional white paper or two is probably inbound in mid-April to late April to kind of outline what comes next after these big primary product rollouts. And now for the airdrop piece. So this one, this has been an interesting challenge. So originally, the idea was to have tasks for swap and lend. But the more we looked into it on the smart contract front, one, because of the different changes in SNPs, and two, for a variety of other functional maintenance reasons, there was a high degree of concern that if we deployed tied to a single, essentially the community, if the Shade got locked up in a task and the task would have to evolve, then this airdrop would get kind of screwed up, we'll say, for like the final tasks. So we, talked to a variety of contributors, and in the end, we're going to be tying the entirety of the remaining airdrop is going to be tied to the staking task that should be coming at early May would be the goal in essence. So this just simplifies complexity for the front end. It simplifies security of the tasks. I'll just say this was not an easy decision. We actually made it far enough along that there was an airdrop vault for lend. It was actually in the code, but it was decided to essentially be pulled out of it because of the risks that were perceived. So fully intended to go this route, but the closer we got to it, the more the engineers looked into it. It felt prudent to not do it that way because of the security risks of if something changes, there's no kind of reversing the airdrop task. So to simplify it, because we know staking is going to be kind of unchanging, it's the simplest task. It was the best route for the entirety of the final 70% will be tied to Shade staking. So yeah, just want to let the community know about that. We'll have more details coming out about that in the coming week or two. It was a hard decision, but I think this makes the most sense from a security standpoint, and it should simplify the final task. You won't have to jump through 3 hoops, weird swap, weird lend task, liquidity provide task. Instead, it's just going to be one simple staking task of your Shade to unlock the remaining portion. So I'll pause here if Christian or anyone else wants to add any light on that decision as well.
No, I think you got it. I just do want to emphasize that we did try really hard to get that airdrop across the whole protocol, and it's just when you start making that many changes to the smart contracts just for the sake of the airdrop, you start introducing a lot more risk, and it's just not worth it for a little bit of fun. You know what I mean? So we stand by the decision, and ultimately it'll be easier for everybody to claim their airdrop. So overall, it's probably a better thing anyway.
Cool. So I think that covered D-Shade, regular staking, airdrop, timelines, business development, and stress testing. As you know, does anyone else have any other big topics we'd like to talk about? If not, we can kind of close things out here. Okay, no additional topics. So yeah, I just want to say that from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for your patience. I think this is kind of the moment where we finally get to show the world that like this group of very passionate visionaries and builders and community actually follows through. There's a lot of dreamers out there, but to actually be able to go and make Silk a reality, to make this unified app a reality, it's something very, very special. And so thank you for being with us on this journey. What's crazy to comprehend is that this is literally just the start. Like what comes next, the next 5-6 months, the stuff that's planned, I think is absolutely mind-blowing. And what I can tease is that for Silk to truly go global, you have to be able to go after global markets. And I'll leave it that broad and that ambiguous. I think on the tokenomics front too, there's going to be a lot more of focus on empowering Shade stakers, Shade token holders in terms of their ability to govern the DAO and govern the future of the protocol. So a lot of value for the community to be had there. So stay tuned for that. And as we always like to close with, plenty of room in the shade, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.